Welcome to another episode of The U. My name is Rafael Leiva-Ochoa. Isn't it nice to have guests come over to your home, eat up all your dinner, hog up the TV, use up your bandwidth? We all love that, don't we? Let me think about that. No, I don't. I really don't like that. But in reality, that's just life. Now, one of the things you have to understand about having guests at home is what's one of the first things they ask for. Can I have access to your network? Now, having a guest at home is one thing, but having a guest in a corporate network is a completely different story, because this is where they can have access to resources that you may not want to grant. Because in reality, they bring devices like this, or they bring devices like this that are very, very difficult in order for us to control, because we don't own these devices. We don't have control over these devices. We can't just install software clandestinely on those devices, do we? I'm just kidding. But in any case, we need to make sure that we have full control over these devices. So the way that we can do that is by using the Cisco Icebox guest services. With guest services, not only can we create unique logins that they can use to log in with any device that they have, but also offer up a way in order to control those devices, in order to make sure that they only have certain access to the network, and also to make sure that we can audit them to see what they have done on the network by looking at the logging that the Icebox provides to see what portions of the network they have access during the duration of their login, or even block them if we feel that they're doing something that they're not supposed to. So let's go ahead and look how ISE services can provide that for you on your network. In order to configure guest access on the Cisco Icebox, we're going to go through 3 steps. First, we're going to add the required ACLs on the WLC and enable the MAB on the SSID that the user will use to gain access to the network. On step number 2, we will configure authorization rules to trigger the authentication and grant the required access. And on step number 3, we will verify the results using the logging. To start the process of configuring guest access, we will go over to the wireless LAN controller. When we're in the wireless LAN controller, we will go under administration and select command line interface. The first thing we want to do is verify that we have the correct redirection ACL that will redirect all of the guest access traffic over to the Icebox. To do this, we will go and enter the show access list on the prompt and verifying that it says exec, and then click on run command. You will see that here we have the redirection ACL that we will be using in order to redirect all guest access traffic over to the Icebox. The next thing we need to do is verify the wireless LAN controller SSID to verify that it has MAB enabled. To do this, we will do a show run, pipe symbol, section, WLAN, run the command, and here is the SSID that we're using for the guest access. Notice that we're using the MAC filtering for the Icebox for authorization. This will make sure to send the MAC address over to the Icebox for authorization and then trigger the web app that we have configured as part of the policies. Once we're done verifying this, we will go back to the Icebox. We will click on the sandwich menu and we will select policy. And then under policy elements, we will select results. Under the results, you will go into authorization and you will select authorization profile. From here, you will select the Cisco WebAuth. So this is the authorization profile that we will use to trigger the guest access. Now, as you can see under the common tasks, if we go towards the middle, we will see something called web redirection. We need to verify that it says central WebAuth. We have the correct ACL. The caps do matter, so you need to make sure that this is correct. And since we want the users to self-register and create their own guest access IDs, we want to go ahead and make sure and select self-registered guest portal. Once we're done, we will go back to the authorization profiles once we've saved this. And we will go over to guest access. This is a authorization profile that I created in order to control what access the guest users will have on the network. As you can see, there's nothing currently assigned right now under the downloadable ACLs, but if I did configure this will allow me to limit the guest users' access movements in the network. by making sure that he only has web access to the internet or only access to certain servers or resources within the infrastructure. So once I configure this, I can go ahead and save it, and I can go back into the menu system under policy and policy results. And this is where I will go ahead and start the process of configuring the wireless access policy configurations. So in order to do this, we will go into the wireless access policy configurations by selecting the greater than symbol, selecting authentication policy. And as you can see, I will have two authentication policies already configured, one for MAB and one for .1x. For the one for MAB, we need to make sure under options that if user is not found, we need to continue. This will allow us to continue over to the authorization policies if the MAC address is not found in the MAB database on the ISE box. Once it is done, we will go over to the authorization policies. And you will see that I have two new rules. One is called guest access and one is called guest web auth. The guest access essentially identifies what particular users are going to be granted guest access. As you can see, anyone who is part of the endpoint group for guests, as you can see, it's called guest endpoints, will be identified as guest users. Anyone who authenticates as a guest will automatically be placed into that particular group. As you can see, I've already added the guest access result on the menu. And under the guest web auth, we see that we will trigger the guest web auth if we only get a MAC address from the wireless system that we're using, the WLC. And as you can see, that will trigger the Cisco web auth profile configuration that we've configured. Once this is done, you can now move on to the client. So from the client perspective, all you need to do is select your Wi-Fi card, go into the guest access SSID that I have advertised on the network, and connect. Once the system connects you to that SSID, you will then open your browser and attempt to go to the web. When you attempt to go to the web, it will redirect you to the guest portal. On the bottom, you will notice that you can register for your own guest access. So here I'm going to create an ID. I'm going to put my name and information, my email. I'm going to go ahead and put the country that I am currently adding for my phone number, because the administrator is asking for that information as part of my registration. This is something that can be very easily modified or changed. I'm going to put the company. I'm going to put the person that I'm visiting, his email address, and the reason why I'm visiting him, and then register. Once I register, it will give me a username and password. As you can see, it's going to be using the username that I picked. Now notice that it gives me a 4-digit password. This is something that can be very easily modified later, so I copied that for future reference. So let's go ahead and log in. So once I log in, it will give me a accept use policy, also called an AUP. Once I accept this, it will ask me to enter the old password and change it to something of my choosing. Once I do that, it will ask me to go ahead and continue. And now I should have access to the web or whatever resources the administrator granted me. So now if I go here and if I type in a website, it should allow me now to serve whatever resources I was granted. If I go back over to the ISE box, I can go into the operations, live logs, and as you can see, that is where my user has now been accepted and logged in. So if I click on the details option, you will see that I was successfully authenticated and granted guest access. As you can see under the authorization policy and on the results, you can see that I've been granted the authorization profile guest access and whatever restrictions was given to me by the administrator. In addition, what you can also do, if you go back to the Icebox dashboard, you can click on the workflow, select Manage Accounts, and click on Manage Accounts. And as you can see, here you can create accounts already that you're expecting people to create later on, so that way they don't have to create an account by themselves. Or you can go ahead and manage the current accounts that are currently on the system, even removing them if you wish. So this is how you manage guest access on your network and provide guest services to any user that visits your company. So as you can see, the Cisco Icebox Guest Services provides us a way not only to create a login for all of our guest users, but also offers us a way in order to track them and control their access. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.